How did we get here today? Well, it started back in October 2019. Tasha was in Australia for a friend's wedding, and a couple of days before she was due back, I received a phone call letting me know that she was extending her trip because she had met someone. The first thing that went through my mind was, oh my God, what is she doing? He could be a killer. She knows nothing of him. I didn't sleep for 7 days and was worried sick. The week went by and she came home safe and sound.
I remember the day Mom told me you were extending your trip to Australia for a week to hang out with a guy. She's freaking out, and I said, chill, let her be. She's old enough to make her own decisions. The next thing we all knew, Chris was coming to Canada for Christmas, and that's when it clicked that this was something bigger.
Whilst we find ourselves in Toronto for Chris's and Tasha's wedding, I have to report that Chris has not always been the most adventurous person. When lots of us were young, are young, there were grand ambitions of travelling the world, but this never interested Chris. In fact, when Chris met Tash was travelling on the other side of the world in Australia, and Chris had never even possessed a passport. Now, Chris's aversion at the time for jumping on a plane and going to a different country was pretty ironic, given that if anyone's ever seen Chris run, his technique's actually quite a good impression of a Boeing 747 steaming down the runway. So you can imagine everyone's shock when CJ said, hey, I've met this Canadian girl. I've booked a trip to Canada in 2 months' time. From that point onwards, we knew that Chris, to go from not ever having a passport to travelling over the other side of the world to be with Tash, we knew this Canadian called Natasha must have been an incredibly special person.
A day or two after she returned, she tells me Chris was coming over for Christmas. And again, I thought, what is she doing? But now looking back, I knew the moment she met Chris, he was the one for her.
You want me to turn?
Hi.
Hi.
You look good.
So do you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it too much?
No,
Looks good.
that looks good.
You're gonna cry?
No, I was going to kiss you. Yeah.
Natasha, you are my best friend. You're a testament to the fact that love at first sight just doesn't happen in fairy tales. I love your goofy sense of humour, how passionate you are, especially with how it comes to the kids you work with. From the 15 days we spent apart when you came over here for the wedding, I also love your cooking more than ever. I'm so grateful for how you and your family and your friends welcomed me to Canada the first time I came and ever since. It really does feel like a second home to me.
Chris, you balance my sister and make her one completely whole. You two are in an incredibly trustworthy, loving, and nurturing relationship that continues to grow every day. All your adventures together and travels have brought you here in this moment, surrounded by all the people who love you the very most.
February 20th, 2022, I received a phone call from Chris. In his shy way, he told me he was going to ask Tosh to marry him. I was delighted. On 25th of February, he popped the question, and she said yes, which brings us to the celebration today.
I remember thinking after I met you in Byron Bay that you were going to be someone special in my life. I remember feeling so calm and confident that whatever this was, it was going to be great. So naturally I extended my trip in Australia to go on a 4-day date with you. And it was bliss. After your first trip to Canada, seeing you with my family at Christmas made me feel like it wasn't real. I was dreaming. There's no way that my mom would actually like someone that I brought home. But you won everyone over. And I quickly learned that you are my person, my rock, and the love of my life.
Some of you have traveled around halfway around the world, and some of you have fought the Toronto traffic, which you might have felt going around the world several times. But I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming here to celebrate their wedding.
Tash, I am so grateful for the love she is able to radiate to those she cares about. I'm sure each and every one of you in this room has had a gut-hurting laugh because of my sister. From witty one-liners, hilarious jokes, and stories, Tash is able to put a smile on pretty much anyone's face.
You helped me rewrite my narrative of a good partner, best friend, lover, and caretaker. You taught me to trust that when we lean into uncomfortable feelings, they don't need to end. Instead, we grow, change, and evolve together. Your love took off my mask that I feared I couldn't live without, but knew I couldn't live within. Together, I know that we can make the impossible possible, as we already have. Our love started as a feeling and a lot of distance, and we made a choice to work through that distance, and I find myself choosing you more and more every day.
I can't imagine how hard it is to move your life across the world away from your family. And I vow to always be there to help you through the tough times. I vow to support you as you strive to achieve all your ambitions in your career. I vow that I will always love you.
I'm not sure what I should tell you about Christopher. The first thing that comes to mind is that he was always crazy for sport. From when he was very young, he turned our family room into a football field, and his long-suffering younger brother into the opposition. And he always designed the rules so victory was his.
For many of the people in the room that don't know Chris that well, I'd like to fill you in on one of Chris's greatest qualities, his commitment and loyalty to the Bulleen Cricket Club. This is our local amateur level cricket club that is effectively Chris's second home. Ever since making his debut in the senior competitions at age 14 against grown men, he has dedicated an enormous number of his spare hours to not just playing, but to keeping the entire club churning along. I would list out all the things that Chris does for this club, but I'd probably be still listing things off into tomorrow morning. Chris is so revered around the club that 13 players and partners have made the trip over here and are here tonight. Chris is such a supportive friend and brother you can always count on, and honestly one of the most loyal people I've ever met. I'm so happy that Chris and Tash have found each other, because they are two of the greatest people I've ever met, the two greatest people I've ever met in my life. And I can't describe how much I love you both.
Christopher, I promise to always support you and hold you up when times are hard. I vow never to go to bed angry and to never say anything behind your back that you don't already know. I vow that when we have children, they will be raised as proud Richmond supporters rather than Geelong. I promise forever and always to cheer you on, be your biggest fan, and love you with everything that I am and everything that I will become. Love you.